The cozy, dim lighting of the loft is suddenly interrupted by a sharp electric crackle. With a flash of blinding white light and a rush of displaced air, you materialize right in the center of the room, landing amidst scattered books and posters. Sunset Shimmer, who had been leaning over her desk scribbling notes, jumps back with a startled gasp. She nearly knocks over her lamp, her eyes widening in genuine shock as she stares at the stranger who just appeared in her sanctuary. What the? Who are you? And how did you get past the front door, let alone the ceiling? Sunset exclaims, her voice laced with alarm. She immediately reaches for her geode, her expression shifting from surprise to a defensive, strategic glare. She doesn't attack, but she stays tense, her body coiled as she tries to figure out if you're a magical threat or just a very confused trespasser. You cough, dusting yourself off. Slowly, your eyes refocus. Sunset Shimmer's place?
Hey,
You clear your throat and try again.
yo, my name is Anon. I don't really know how I ended up here, but I'm definitely glad to see you.
You take a breath to tell her that you are a huge fan of the show, but you pause. Is telling her that she's a fictional character smart? Is she even a fictional character anymore? What does that make you? Your head begins to hurt, so you refocus on the situation at hand.
I didn't mean to just appear here. I was just sitting in my room on my computer, and here I am. Suffice to say, I'm from another world. Not Equestria, not here. I feel like I should be lightheaded or something, but honestly, I feel fine.
You look down at yourself. Better than fine, really. It would seem you're an appropriate high school age. That's certainly convenient. Sunset's defensive posture softens slightly, though she doesn't move away from her desk. She studies you with a critical eye. The mention of another world doesn't seem to shock her as much as it might normally. After all, she used to live in one. Another world, huh? Sunset repeats, her voice cautious but curious. She crosses her arms, her gaze lingering on your confused expression. Look, I've dealt with portals, magic geodes, and interdimensional travel, but usually there's a visible rift or glowing mirror or something involved. You just kind of popped in. That's not typical. She takes a step closer to you, squinting as she tries to read your energy. If you're telling the truth about not knowing how you got here, then I guess you're lucky you landed in my living room and not in the middle of the street, she says, a small, wry smile appearing on her face. But hold up. You said you were glad to see me? That's a weird thing to say to someone you've never met. Do I know you from somewhere?
Uh,
You glance aside for a moment, her eyes feeling like they're piercing.
well, of course, I'm glad to see a human.
You say, risking a glance back at her.
I mean, I could have ended up a human in Equestria or some other universe completely. Other humans are a good sign.
Sunset pauses, her brow furrowing. She lets out a short, skeptical huff, but the edge of suspicion in her voice is replaced by a growing sense of intrigue. She rests a hand on her hip, looking you up and down again. Fair point. The alternative could have been landing in a swamp or a dimension made of sentient jello, for all I know. And honestly, looking for other humans is a pretty solid survival instinct, she admits, finally relaxing her shoulders. She steps back, gesturing vaguely towards a nearby couch with a small, inviting wave of her hand. All right, Anon. If you really are from someplace beyond our horizon, we need to figure out if you're a permanent guest or a cosmic glitch. Have a seat. You want some water or something? You take a seat on the couch, uncharacteristically timid.
Water would be great.
You say, a touch awkwardly. You had all these grand ideas about what you'd do in this sort of situation, but it was different, actually, being here. You'd actually have to deal with the consequences of any actions you took. If you made an ass of yourself, you'd end up sleeping on the streets. It wasn't like you had any ID or paperwork or anything to get a job or even a beer. But maybe Sunset or one of her friends would let you crash for a while. Surely Applejack had room, right? You could enroll in Crystal Prep. They had dorms, but you quickly discard that idea. Better to sleep in that place Twilight did in the library than pass up the chance to talk to your favorite non-pony girls. First order of business, figuring out school. Lunch was important. A place to sleep, too. Twilight hadn't needed paperwork when she'd come here from Equestria, so you could probably wing it. And hopefully get a diploma someday so you could at least get a job wage cucking for a fast food place someday. Ugh. Sunset walks over to her sink, the sound of a faucet running filling the brief silence. She fills a glass, her mind clearly racing as she processes the logistics of a random person appearing in her loft. She brings the glass over and hands it to you, noticing the way you're staring off into space with a distant, preoccupied look. You got that look on your face, Sunset says with a faint, knowing smile, leaning against the edge of her desk. The I have no idea where I am or how I'm going to survive the next 24 hours look. Believe me, I've been there. Listen, the paperwork part is the easiest bit if you have the right people backing you. She reaches for her phone on the desk, tapping the screen with a thoughtful expression. And look, I can't exactly put a dimensional traveler in a hotel without a credit card or ID, but until we figure out how you got here and if we can even send you back, you're probably not going anywhere. But you can't just hang out in my apartment forever. I got a reputation for being reformed, not running an illegal boarding house. She looks at the group chats on her phone, her thumb hovering over the Rain Booms thread. A playful glint appears in her eyes as she glances back at you. My friends are eclectic. They're the kind of people who wouldn't blink if I told them a stranger fell out of the sky. Maybe once you've had your water, I'll introduce you to the girls. Between Applejack's farm and Twilight's obsession with anomalies, we might actually find a way to help you.
I would rather die than be sent back.
You said suddenly, head snapping up to catch Sunset's gaze.
I just need to figure out a place here. A place to sleep, make sure I can go to classes, that sort of thing.
You blink, pausing for a moment. More than food or a place to sleep, there was something even more crucial you needed to lock in.
And date for the fall formal if that's coming up?
You asked hopefully. Sunset freezes, her eyebrows shooting up in sheer disbelief. She stares at you for a few long seconds, the glass in her hand nearly slipping as she processes the rapid shift from existential crisis to social butterfly. A slow, amused laugh escapes her, and she shakes her head, leaning back against the desk with a look of genuine amusement. Wow, you really don't waste any time, do you? Sunset chuckles, her eyes twinkling. Most people spend their first hour in a new dimension panicking about, lack of a birth certificate or wondering if they're dreaming. You're already planning your social life. I have to admit, I respect the confidence. She taps her chin, thinking. As for school, Celeste and Luna are surprisingly lenient when it comes to students with complicated backgrounds, especially if you've got me in your corner. She explains, shifting her tone to be more practical. But as for the date, that's a high bar to clear. You gotta actually meet people here first. No telling who's available or who's even looking for a date with an interdimensional traveler. She lets out a sigh and gestures for you to stand up. Come on, if we're going to get you settled into student life, we should probably start with a walk. Maybe a stop at the mall or the sweet shop. Let's see how the world reacts to you before we start picking out formal wear. This is a choose your own adventure, which means you guys get to decide what happens. Leave a comment down below, and whatever gets the most likes is what will happen.